Hello, to you all. Welcome back. It's so great to be here with all of you wherever we are. Doesn't matter what side of the ocean we're on, what side of the camera or the computer we're on. We're together in this moment, right here, right now. Only love, only God, only now. You realize that that's the only thing we need to remember, right? That's the only thing we need to focus on is that those three things. In fact, as we've said before, they're really only one thing. They can just be reduced to only love, only love, only love. Just love it all, no matter what. Give your all to that love. And then everything will be exactly as it needs to be. And then we will be able to step into what I believe to be the highest expression of this love. And that's what I want to talk about here today. The highest expression of this love is what we're going to call full on foolishness. We could call it divine foolishness if we want. I'm thinking about that a lot because here in Assisi, the entire culture is primarily centered around one of the greatest divine fools ever, Francis of Assisi. He took divine or full on foolishness to a whole new level and showed us how it's the key to letting go of all the constraints of the ego and society and all of the chains that have bound us and kept us from being the free spirits that we are in reality, from realizing only love, only God, only now. There's a certain type of divine foolishness that we have to embrace, we have to give ourselves to if we're to break free. That's what we talked about just a little while ago here at the retreat, and I really enjoyed it so much. I thought I'm going to come on and share this with our Namaste family as well. Because what I did was I wrote something right before the session began. You know, it's one of those things where you never know where a session or a retreat is going to go. Much as in the morning there at Namaste Village, I often just sit at the breakfast table and listen. And there's so often something that is said or some conversation that happens that informs the whole session. Even if I have an idea of where the discussion needs to go that particular morning, something will be said by one person or more that will turn it in a completely different direction. And that happened this morning at our breakfast table here at our retreat place. And this idea of full on foolishness came about, was expressed. And I just started thinking about that and how foolishness needs to be full on. It can't be half-assed. If you're going to give yourself to a level of divine foolishness, you have to give yourself to that completely, because that's the only way that it transforms from the ego's foolishness, which is not going to get you very far, to the foolishness of what we'll call the Christ foolishness. The foolishness that says this world that we perceive is not what we think it is. But the only way to come into a direct experience of what it is to let go of all of the ideas and concepts and restraints and all the things that we think we have to do, or the people we have to impress, or whatever it may be. We have to let go of it all and be full on fools. Now, that sounds very strange to the intellectual or egoic mind. Why would you want to be a fool? That's the opposite of what we're usually told. Don't be a fool. But every great person, saint, mystic who has brought us closer to this divine impulse taught us this very lesson. Be a fool for God. Be a fool for love. Give everything. Be full on. So that being said, let me read something that I wrote before our session here earlier today. I think it'll give you a better idea of what I'm trying to express. Here we go. To be a full-on fool is to live without a safety net. To live without worrying about your reputation or your calculation of where you should be or what you should be doing, even your self-protection, to live without any of that in mind. That might be a tricky one right there. How many of you can honestly say that you're able to right now live without a safety net, any kind of safety net, without worrying about what people think of you or even your self-protection? That's a challenge when we identify with this life, the life that seems to begin and end, all of these things that we think define us. But these are the very things that we have to look at and release, and this is what divine foolishness is. Francis leapt headfirst into the madness of love. He leapt headfirst into the madness of love. He didn't put his toe into that pool to see how cold it was or if it was warm enough to jump in. There was no preparation. He just dove headfirst right in. He didn't test the waters. He stripped himself bare. He embraced lepers, sang throughout all the streets of Assisi, and he let people think that he was insane. That's full-on foolishness. His gift to us is the reminder, and here it is, the reminder that hesitation is the shadow of fear, and fear is the shadow of the false self. Even when we stop holding back, when we stop trying to test the water, even when it looks ridiculous, we begin to discover the radiant freedom that Francis knew. I like those words, radiant freedom. There's a radiation of love and light and grace that just emanates from us when we're full on fools. That's the key. All right. The way to dissolve fear is not by fighting it. Don't fight fear, but by giving ourselves away completely. If hesitation whispers into our ear, wait, what will people think? Then foolishness answers by saying, it doesn't matter. Just go and love anyway. Give yourself to love. Every small act of holy folly, like an extravagant kindness or an unguarded word of praise, a childlike song, all of these tear down another brick in the fortress, the fortress of the ego. Every act of foolishness for love's sake is just another act that tears down another brick from that fortress. The more we risk looking foolish, the more transparent we become to grace. There you go. So this is not recklessness for its own sake. It may sound like it, but it's not. This is surrender. It's really about surrendering. When, for example, Francis kissed the leper, or when Brother Juniper, gave away his tunic, they weren't just breaking social rules, they were breaking the chains of fear that were still within them. Their foolishness wasn't aimless. It was aimed directly at the heart of love itself. That's the direction of divine foolishness. To give ourselves fully to such folly is to say, I will no longer measure what is safe and respectable. Ooh, let me say that again. I will no longer measure what is safe and respectable. I will measure only what is loving. That is full on foolishness right there. Only what is loving. And in this, grace takes over. The self begins to dissolve because there's nothing left for it to defend. The fool has no dignity to lose, no pride to protect, no hesitation to hold back. In that emptiness, God rushes in. God can only rush into the space that we allow to be empty. To be a full-on fool is to leap into that emptiness with joy, trusting that love is the ground that we fall into, and that the very laughter of heaven itself will carry us the rest of the way. That's full-on foolishness. So the question for all of you now is, are you willing to release the safety net, to let go of any expectation of being praised or having a reputation, to let go of it all? Are you willing to do that for the sake of love? This is the value of people like Francis and Clare and so many other great mystics from so many traditions. They didn't care in the same way that humans are called to care. They didn't give importance to the protection of the body, the image, the reputation, none of it, because they were so enraptured by love itself, by giving themselves to love. And they knew that on many different levels that that is an act of full-on foolishness. Doesn't make any sense to one who is clinging to the world or clinging to their body, their health, or anything like that. It doesn't make any sense at all. But to the saint, to the mystic, it makes perfect sense. And so this is why all of us are called to be full-on fools. That's why I love coming to Assisi, because it reminds me that this is the call for each one of us. So the question is, what are you holding back? What's your hesitation? Are you willing to look at that? Are you willing to look at your own safety net and say, maybe I don't need that? Maybe crashing and burning is what I need. Who knows? Sometimes. Or sometimes we just have to realize that that safety net wasn't a safety net at all. It was just an idea in my mind of some protection that I never really needed. Because the protection of grace is all I really need. The protection of love. But to access that grace and that love, we need to exhibit a kind of foolishness that the world will never understand. And to be full on with it, not halfway, not half measured, but to be full on with grace and love and foolishness. So this is what I've been thinking about today as I've been walking around Assisi and leading our group and just listening to their sharings. And it seems to be catching fire. Maybe it is with you as well. Maybe you're feeling something like, yeah, I can relate to that. I can feel that. We all have something that we're holding back in. Let me give you an example from my own life, and maybe you'll be able to relate. So last year, when I was here in Assisi, some of you may remember that I found a house, like a 1 minute walk from the main piazza here in Assisi. A house with 4 bedrooms and a little chapel, and a simple house, but very nice, very suitable. And at that time, I was determined to go ahead and get that house and to make it available as for many things, as a Namaste Europe for people who want to come and experience Assisi, or to go deeper into this divine foolishness, or to do intimate retreats, to bring 1 or 2 or 3 people into this experience rather than a bigger group. I think that would be lovely. But I held back. Last year, I actually said, yes, I'm going to do it. And then when it came time to actually make the deposit, my safety net was that, oh no, what if I need that money? What if there's something else that comes along? If I do this, I won't have that. I won't be able to do anything else. So right now, my foolishness, my full-on foolishness is to, by the way, that house is still for sale. The whole group and I just went and looked at it about an hour ago. And I'm just listening to guidance right now. But here's what I can tell you. If the guidance is to do that, I'm going without any worry or concerned of safety or what if or any. That's the foolishness that I'm feeling right now. Just don't worry about it. Trust the guidance. That's what it always is, trusting divine guidance, even when it sounds kind of crazy. So who knows? I'll keep you posted. But the fact that it was still for sale told me, well, maybe this is what the call is. We'll see. So, once again, tune in, see what your hesitation is, see what your hold back is, and ask yourself, can I be foolish enough to give all of my love to that in a way that lets me expand past it completely, expand past the fear, the hesitation, the hold back, and be a full-on fool for love. All right, Penny. Think I set you up pretty well. You're a pretty full on fool, I think, as well. I mean, just giving up everything that you've done there in Arizona and showing up there in Mexico of all places at Namaste Village, especially when I leave. I would say that's pretty foolish, but it's working out.
Yeah, well, one fool knows another. And of course, as I'm sitting here, guess what? An acronym dropped in, right? James, that's awesome. I appreciate you. We feel a lot of freedom in that, don't we? So, fool, full on offering love. I'll be a fool any day if that's what it is.
Bingo. Full on offering love. I'm going to use that later.
It's yours. Well, actually, it's mine, but you can use it. Nah, that stuff drifts around in the universe, like all of that love and the good that we have in our lives. I like to consider the fact that I am borrowing it because it always is, it always has been, and it's all around us. I had another thought when you were talking about when we worry about reputations. I've never had one. But I do like that saying, what you think of me is none of my business. And I like this one even better. What I think of me is none of my business. What I think the little I thinks of me and limits me to. Yeah, that's just none of my business. I need to stay out of that business because it will shut me down and I will hesitate. And you've heard me say this before. I really do believe that I slap the universe right in the face when I don't show up as my greatest self. I could comfortably be in Flagstaff, Arizona right now. I'd know exactly what Sunday was supposed to look like. Now, I never really followed my notes, or I was never that structured, just ask anybody. But there was rhythm, and there was total knowing, and I was in total control. And then a year ago in July, some fool walked up to me and said, hey, could you see yourself living in Mexico? And suddenly I had to look at that safety net that I had. And what I noticed when I really, really looked at it, it had become a restraint, not a safety net. And I was using that to keep me safe. And it's so easy to do and fall into, isn't it? When we feel loved and affirmed and we feel in control. And this is where we really get to do the work. When we start realizing and stepping into the infinite that resides all around us all the time. And we realize that those safety nets have become the restraints that keep us from seeing that. Were any of us ever told, now you go out there today and be a little fool? I don't think so. I don't remember. Did somebody hear that? I want to have coffee with you. We didn't hear that. Took us a long time to even considering it, at least on my part. And there's still that part, I'm sure, in all of us that says, no, You know better than that. Be smart, plan ahead, make an Excel spreadsheet. Go ahead and make 10 of them. Do that. And I'm not disking that because I probably will go home and make a to-do list for tomorrow. Go home is upstairs. And as I like to remind people, when you make that to-do list, double space it. Leave room for God. That's enough safety net. Okay, I have a general idea. I'm going to go right on out here. I'm going to go out into the world and I'm going to open myself. I'm going to open myself to love. I'm going to be a fool and allow flexibility and space, not only in my actions, but in my thoughts, where there is room for creation and connection and a remembering. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to be a fool that brings joy and light and maybe even a smile or two. I don't know. And if they're laughing at me, they're letting somebody else rest because they're going to laugh at somebody. So pick me. I'm willing to be that. No net, no restraint, no limit. And now we remind ourselves and each other and all others, actually, that we're limitless. We no longer need to control how big God can be in our lives. That's a big job. It has been in my life for a long time, trying to control how big God can be in my life. No, that's too big, not that far, not that loud, not that funny, not that silly, not that foolish. We talked about this last week. I said, I believed we could love the hell out of our lives. Let's start with being foolish. Let's start with being fools, full on opening to love, right? Let's start there. And we might not know what's going to happen. And that might be the good news. Because as we talked about yesterday, coming in with predisposed ideas, limiting the universe, let's open to that greatness and allow the universe to be in us what it chooses to be. Now, I don't know how that necessarily plugs in all the time to paying a mortgage or paying your rent or taking care of your animal, or I've got this worry, or I've got a kid I don't get along with. Sometimes that feels a little dismissive to those things in our lives. My invitation to you is this. You've been doing it with a net. Try it without one. Love it, leave it, or change it is what Greg Bear wrote in his relationship book. Love it, leave it, or change it, but let go of the net. With a net, it is exactly that. It just won't transform. We will be restrained and constricted in who we are. Do you think the world needs more of that? People that are afraid? People that don't trust? People that impose and bully because they need the control and the security of that? I don't think we need more of that. I like this idea coming out as a fool. In fact, I think I could probably do that pretty easily. So the invitation is, and James, I thank you for the reminder, no net today, just today. I always say that, just try it for today. Now, if you come back tomorrow and say, well, that was really stupid, we'll talk through that. All right, we'll process that then, but give it a whirl today. This is your moment. All right, I want you for just a moment in your mind's eye to see yourself with no net today. Do you see it? Look at that. Look how much you're in a bouncy house having the time of your life. No net. No net. I invite you into that today. So, Mr. Scott, are you going to bless us with your presence today? No? Yes?
Yes.
All right. I love it. Thank you for that. You want to talk about a no net kind of guy, right? Here he is. Blessings, my friends.
This is a subject dear to my heart. Oh, yeah. Did I do it? Yes. No? Can't see.
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Somebody give me the first line. Give yourself to love.
No, something about foolishness.
A fool for love. A fool for love. A fool for love.
Give yourself to being a fool for love, for only love. Have you kissed a leopard on the lips? There ain't no lepers in Ahi. But there are people who need your gifts, who really would be healed when you turn the other cheek. So let's be fools today for love. Break the rules today for love. Let's be fools every day and step out of our way. And let the divine fool who we really are step on the gas and drive the car.
Beautiful, Scott. Thank you so much. Thanks, Penny. Thanks to all of you. So now tune in, find out where your hold back is. Where are you holding back and not giving everything or living without a safety net? Let's be full on fools today. And to that, we say, Amen, 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 y punto. Have a beautiful day. We love you all. Namaste.
Thank you.